Introduction of Sustainable Development. In 1987, the Brundtland Commission published its report that's called Our Common Future. In this report, it showed that the effort to link the issue of economic development and environmental stability. In this report, it provides the off-site definitions of sustainable development, and it defined sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. Other than that, sustainable development is defined as an approach to developing the growing by using resources in a way that allowed for them to renew or continue to exist for others. For example, using recycled material or renewable resources when building. The concept of sustainable development is to maintain economic investments and progress while protecting the long-term value of the environment. It provides a framework for the integration of environment policies and development strategies. However, long before the late 20th century, scholars argued that there is no need to be a trade-off between environmental sustainability and economic development. Last but not least, sustainable development practice help countries grow in ways that adapt to the challenges posed by the climate change, which will in turn help to protect important natural resources for ours and future generations.
The objective in our research is the first one is to identify the factor that causes worse sustainable development in our country, and the second one is to investigate the impact of effect that might affect our country because of the worst sustainable development. And the last one is to find the way that has been done by Malaysian to recover the urban sustainable development problem.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Mawadhah, Binti Paiman, and I will continue on the research questions. There are three research questions that we have been discussed. The first one is, what is the issue about sustainable development in Malaysia? The second one is, how does the government of Malaysia tackle this issue? And the last one is, among all the sustainable development goals, which are the most important in Malaysia?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Faten Ameera Yanna Binti Muhammad Sailan, and I'm going to explain to you about the theoretical framework of our research. Okay, so the term sustainability is considered as a popular term in policy-oriented research, as it is known as an expression of what policies ought to achieve. Although the term sustainability maybe seems as a simple term, but there are many scholars that agree that defining the term sustainability is not as easy as it seems. For example, there is a comment made by O'Riordan. He said that the term sustainability could be described as an exploration into a tangled conceptual jungle where watchful eyes looks at every bend. So if we translate the word sustainability, like literally translate it, it will mean that a capacity to maintain some entity, outcome or process over time. The term sustainability is a popular term that even the economists, it become a common topic in the research that is made by the economists. For example, there is a theory made by Thomas Malthus. In 1978, Thomas published a theory regarding the looming mass starvation due to the inability of the agricultural land to feed an expanding populations. Okay, nowadays the term sustainable development is a popular term. This is because there are various types of development that happens in this modern age. So people start to wonder how they want to save the earth while ensuring the economy of the country or the economy around the world is still running as usual. So people start to think how they want to protect the earth while continue with their development. So people start to put sustainable development in their planning process, so they could make something, they could develop something without giving too much harm to the nature. This is because people start to become more concerned as various natural disaster happens, and the climate change also become a concerning matters in various types of people. So by implementing sustainable development in their planning, they could at least help to reduce the negative impact into the earth.
So next, I will continue about research methodology. Research methodology is important in the study because it will tell the reader about what does the research talk about, and it will tell the flow of the research. The scope of study for this research is to know about the efforts taken in Malaysia to achieve sustainable development. Next is the research design. The research design that we have used is case study approach. We use case study approach because most of the data and information are taken from various online sources, especially for theoretical review. The data collection that we use is qualitative data. But qualitative data is more suitable than quantitative data because most of the data are used in words. There are also many theories in this research. And the last one is the sources of data. The sources of data that we use is secondary data. This is because the data are taken from article online, journal online, or any institution or government websites. Secondary data also used because it is easy to access using the internet.
The first issue arises in order to achieve SDG in Malaysia is the environmental degradation. According to the study from University of Maryland, Malaysia become the highest rate country that losing the forest cover with 14.4% of forest loss, followed by the Paraguay with 9.6% and Indonesia 8.4%. Most of the Malaysia forests are used for the urbanization and agriculture, and also it is converted to palm plantation. For example, the forest in Sabah Sarawak also has been logged for the development of mega projects such as the Pen Borneo project. Next, the environmental pollution. Since the increasing of industrial sector in Malaysia, many new factories exist in Malaysia, such as in Penang, Johor, Negeri Sembilan, and Selangor. These factories has caused many serious environmental problem, especially to the river pollution and also the air pollution, because it emits many harmful substances derived from the production of the product. For example, it happened to the Kim Kim River in Johor, where a factory dumped their chemical waste illegally without being treated, which has affect the health of the population and also the environment. Lastly, it is the government administration conflicts, where in Malaysia, the government has increased the investment towards the mining sector, as oil and gas become a major source of energy generation. However, direction seems to be a move to wood from the oil production states. According to 1974 Petroleum Agreement, it is stipulated that a share of 5% of the revenue to the oil resources. The Harapan G14 manifesto promised that 20% royalty payment to Sabah Sarawak, since the vote and support from them is important for the Harapan's government majority.
There are some strategies to enhance environmental sustainability through green growth, and the first one is the strategy is by having a strengthening governance to help in preserving our country environment. This is because a good governance can quickly identify and resolve any systematic issue that are related to the environment. And there are three major strategies to strengthen environmental governance that will be implemented during the remaining plan period. And the first one is by strengthening the policy, legislation, and also the institutional framework by the government. Effective governance is required for the implementation of national environmental policy as well as international environmental goal and treaty obligation. Second strategy, the government can improve the capacity and capability enforcement and monitoring. So the development of appropriate mechanism as well as the improvement of relevant indicator will improve reporting, monitoring, and also evaluation. The availability of data will allow for better decision making initiative, monitor and evaluate with the goal of improving. It can be used to improve decision making on environmental issue in the future. And the last strategy that are implemented by a good governance is by raising the awareness and fostering a sense of shared responsibility. So the public awareness campaign can educate the public on environmental preservation resources. Okay, the next strategy toward enhancing environmental sustainability through green growth is by conserving natural resources. The strategies for natural resources that can be implemented, which is by conserving the terrestrial and inland water areas. So the government will assign more areas as protected areas in order to protect terrestrial and inland water areas for conservation and also sustainable use of natural resources. And next strategy is by conserving coastal and marine ecosystem. Sustainable management of coastal and marine ecosystem necessarily required an integrated approach in development planning and decision making among ministry, agencies, and also state and local government. It is because marine ecosystems such as coral reef provide an important ecosystem for life underwater and protect coastal area by reducing the power of wave hitting the coast and provide a crucial source of income for millions of people. Coral reef team will derive life, so thousands of species can be found living on one reef. So the third strategy is by combating climate change. Climate change can be cured if we take initiative to increase the contribution of renewable energy in power generation. Climate change mitigation measure will be stepped up by the initiative and reducing the GHG emission in key emitting sectors such as energy, transportation, waste, industrial process and product use, as well as agriculture, forestry and other land use. So effort can be made to promote electricity generation from biomass and biogas, particularly from oil palm waste and municipal solid waste to preserve the environment. And lastly, a strategy toward enhancing environmental sustainability through green growth is by reducing disaster risk. So the development of an integrated weather and flood forecasting and early warning system is underway. Meanwhile, the tsunami and earthquake monitoring system will be improved. So this system will allow information to be disseminated to disaster-related agency and affected people in a more systematic and timely manner. So furthermore, disaster risk profiling will be prepared in order to identify disaster prone areas.
There are several efforts taken by the government in order to achieve SDG. Firstly, the National SDG Council. The National SDG Council is an institutional structure which is chaired by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. The establishment of the council is to plan and monitor the SDG implementation. Next, the alignment of SDG in Malaysia's National Development Plan. As it is recognized that the implementation of SDG will need many resources and fund, including physical space, capacity building, and also manpower. The implementation of SDG in Malaysia is aligned with the 5 years National Development Plan that has always been towards the economic, social, and environmental agenda. Through the mapping exercise, it is realized that the alignment of SDG and National Development Plan involve the integration of the National Development Plan's action plans, initiative, and the outcome of the SDGs goals, target, and indicators. Lastly, the Malaysia SDG Summit 2019. Malaysia has held the Malaysia SDG Summit in September 2019. The purpose of the meeting is to create public awareness and better understanding on SDGs, as well as to create a medium to discuss the SDG progress, explore opportunities, challenges, and solutions with the stakeholders from public and private sectors, academia, and non-government organizations with the theme on the whole of the nation approach, accelerating progress on the SDGs.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syairah Binti Hasan and I will explain on the conclusion. Okay, in summary, Sustainable Development Goals are the revised from the Millennium Development Goals, which have the same goals with the Sustainable Development Goals but have been improved. Sustainable Goals is more convenient as it aims to ensure that natural resources like water, coal, can be used much longer and enough for future generation. Have a safe environment which is free from the pollutions. Have living things like animal and plants can live much longer. So that next generations can acknowledge them. Hence, future and current generations more appreciate the environment and nature. Um, the economic growth of the country also can be improved and can be sustained much longer, as poverty also listed in the Sustainable Development Goals. The same as hunger can be overcome. Um, sustainable development goals can be achieved when the goals listed in the Sustainable Development Goals can be handled, controlled, and overcome. For the objective of this study, it can be summarized that this study is aiming to identify the factors, consequences, challenges that could be occurred in the achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and there's also solutions or method to overcome that issue. This study also used the qualitative data from the secondary data for the methodology because we want to collect and gather the information in helping this study achieve the objectives. And in the discussion, it's having mentioned and discussed on the challenges that have been faced in order to achieve Sustainable Development Goals (SDG), because it's not easy to achieve the goals without any challenge, as every improvement or every action taken have its own risks that need to be encountered, like the issues of overcoming the poverty, improve the economic growth and citizen life as to have a better living. Natural disaster also might be happen when deforestation and land degradation cannot be controlled. Then issue of administration and management by the government or any parties will be disputed when the action taken are not acceptable by some parties that are involved, as they have their own interests that need to be fulfilled. This is because the action taken by the government cannot satisfy all the parties involved, but it helps to have a good decision, or the best way they can do, even cannot satisfy them all, but it helps in make a better decision. For example, there's in the discussion, it have been discussed on the strategy of strengthening the administrative systems of the governance, because it needs systematic administration and management to have a better governance. Then the conservation of natural resource also must be controlled, so that the goals of sustainable development, which is SDG, can be achieved, and also for the long consumption. Then moreover, we discuss on the handling the climate change, because it's also one of the strategies, because climate change can cause problems to environment, like increase the sea level, global warming, and many more. Another strategy is reducing the disaster risk, which means activities like deforestation must be controlled to prevent the landslide or flash floods. Um, it also and reduce the use of chemicals to avoid the quality of soil, for instance, affect the or cause the implication to human, plants, and animal. The efforts taken by the government in achieving SDG also have been discussed and which comprise of council establishment to plan and monitor the implementation of SDG, and alignment of SDG in Malaysia's national plan. So the implementation can be achieved step by step. Then we also need to give awareness to the public so that it can be enhanced the knowledge and educate the public on the and alert them with the current issues of the in the environment and many more. So it may help in giving suggestion to improve and strengthen the SDG, and automatically the goals can be achieved. In conclusion, the goals can be achieved when government, non-government, citizens can be cooperate together, because this give benefits to them. The challenges must be accounted properly and systematically, as every action that we take have its own risk. Then need to be brave by taking the risk and move forward and steps to improve into a better living. Thank you.